Well, what do you say, Elise? Should we kick it off?
Yes, I think so.
Great. So first of all, a very warm welcome to everyone to this webinar that is held by Assessio and Eletive. Our aim with this webinar is to guide you in what characterizes a work environment with psychological safety, how data can be used to help create psychological safety, and also how the data can help hopefully give you some useful tools on how you can work on improving the psychological safety in your workplace. The reason for us to choose this topic is that we all, no matter in what country we live, we are affected by the changes around the world. The war in Ukraine, the economic inflation, the entrance of ChatGPT, resignation on several companies. And yeah, no one can actually tell what will happen in the next coming 6 months. And this makes it even more important to highlight the importance of psychological safety at workplaces. First, some practicalities. If you have any questions or comments along the webinar, please write them in the Q&A. We plan to have 5 minutes at the end where we have a Q&A where we pick some of your questions. And if we run over time, then we will save them and contact you later with some answers for that. All right, so over to our first slide. But we just want to take the opportunity to present who we are, who will be guiding you here today. Starting with me, I'm Johanna Linderwert Lannér, and I'm calling in from the Eletive head office that's in Malmö, in the south of Sweden. I work as head of people experience at Eletive. And for you who hasn't been in contact with Eletive before, we are an intelligent people success platform that supports employee service, performance management, and self-leadership. And besides a background within HR, in HR operations, I have a long experience of being a manager. And in that role, creating and fostering supportive and safe team environments have always been one of my priorities. So that's why it feels extra valuable to share some of my experience here with you today. And what about you, Elise? Where are you at?
Yes, so thank you. Well, my name is Elise Nathansson. I'm a licensed psychologist and a customer success manager at Assessio. And Assessio is an assessment company, and we support our clients in various aspects of the HR process. So with assessment, when it comes to like personality tests, but also aptitude tests, in recruitment, but also in development and in performance. But we have also this like platform solution. And I'm here in sunny Stockholm today, where we have our office. As a psychologist, I have a clinical background. I have been working in occupational health before, but I have always been very passionate about using psychology in a more preventive way. And I'm so happy to be working in this industry where we focus on how to find, but also how to keep talent and how to make people thrive and succeed in their jobs. And I think that one of the key ingredients for that is to have a psychologically safe climate. So it's very fun to be here today and to host this webinar. And we will start, first of all, more broadly discussing how to promote psychological safety through the HR process using data. And then we will like narrow it down to how to use, how to measure psychological safety and what you can do in your everyday life. That's how we're gonna do it today. Okay, psychological safety. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this phenomenon. It's very, very popular. But let me break it down to you using a definition by Amy Edmondson, a Harvard professor who has done a ton of research on this topic. So according to Amy, she defines this psychological safety like this: a belief that the workplace is safe for speaking up with ideas, concerns, and even mistakes. It's a sense of confidence that your voice is actually valued. And research has shown that creating a psychologically safe workplace is absolutely essential when it comes to building high-performing teams and organization. In 2015, Google researched why some of their teams were more successful than others, and one of their key findings was psychological safety. Because when employees feel psychologically safe, they're more likely to speak up, to share their brilliant ideas, but also to provide feedback. And this will, of course, lead to more creativity, innovation, but also problem-solving skills. Plus, it boosts engagement and motivation. So we really have a lot to win having this kind of climate. And do you know who else play an important role in all of this? Our leaders, of course. They need to create an environment where psychologically safety can thrive. Because being vulnerable themselves and encouraging open communication and truly valuing diverse perspective will actually help this kind of climates. So when prioritizing psychological safety, it becomes a part of the organization's DNA, and everyone benefits from a culture built on trust, respect, and collaboration. So it is really a win-win situation. Okay, so as a psychologist, I have to focus on the behaviors as well. So what behaviors are key to creating psychological safety? Well, first of all, it's important, as I said earlier, to encourage open communication and to create an environment where team members feel comfortable speaking up, sharing ideas without fear of negative consequences. It is also important to acknowledge mistakes and to learn from failure. So encourage a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn. So it's really good to actually share this with your colleagues and with your manager, because perfection is not fun. So please do so. The third one is to providing support and feedback. And by that, I mean that it's important to offer assistance and guidance, but also constructive feedback to team members, because this can foster a sense of collaboration as well. The last one I want to share with you is to demonstrate vulnerability. And by that, I mean showing vulnerability as a leader, but also as a team member by admitting your limitations, seeking help when needed, but also being open to share some personal challenges if you feel comfortable with that. So this is important when you want to have this kind of climate at your workplace. Yes, and some other examples, what you can do. So for example, express new ideas, dare to do so. And try to admit when you have made a mistake and learn from them and share that. Ask for help. If you ask for help, someone else will start doing that too. Raise issues when you see them. This is something that is very important for the organization to learn about, especially now in recession times. So raise issues. It is also important to care about others and to know that it's okay to be different. We love diversity. We love a different perspective. And also value others' skills. It's also important. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to use data in various aspects of the HR process to create a psychologically safe workplace. And when I say data or people data, I mean data from personality and aptitude tests, just so you know what I'm referring to. All right, so this is a data loop, and I would like you to visualize this, that it's something that the data flows within this loop, providing us with valuable insights throughout the whole HR process. So we start in recruitment, we get some insights that we can learn from in development that we then can use when it comes to performance, and that we then hopefully can use when we want to recruit new candidates. So this is a data loop. And we will start in recruitment because we need to find the right people when we want to create this psychologically safe workplace, which is the people will be the very foundation of the organization, but also the culture bearers. So this is like the matchmaking phase. We want to find a good fit for the role for the company. And research show the personality and aptitude tests are reliable predictors for job performance and job fit, along with structured interviews and reference checks. So we want to find candidates whose behavior are aligned with the competencies needed for the role. That could also be a good culture fit as well. This is important in general recruitments, but even more important when it comes to recruiting leaders, because they have such a big impact on your whole company. So we want to find the perfect match using objective data, a person who will endorse the culture we strive to have, but also to increase the likelihood of really having a psychologically safe workplace. So that was the matchmaking phase. We continue our journey within this loop. So we have now hired our perfect match, a leader, and we are now about to onboard this person to make this person feel welcome, safe, supported, and so they can start, build relationships, and then perform. So we want to make use of the data we collected in recruitment. We can learn from the information there about the person's strength, preferred behaviors, behavior tendencies, personality traits. We could also learn things about development areas as well. And this gives the hiring manager a lot of information about how to support this newly hired person. You can also use the data to tailor the onboarding. You could also use data for self-awareness purposes. So it's a great tool to start reflecting on your behaviors and how you are perceived, because self-awareness is crucial when it comes to behavior change. So that's a good way to knowing what you have to do in order to change your behaviors, in order to know what I need to do to get to have the climate that we want to have, like I talked about earlier, to dare to ask questions, admit mistakes, care about others, so that you know what you need to do less or more of. You could also use this data in team development to learn about team members' preferred behaviors and challenges, and also to understand how to support each other. And this is something that can foster an open communication, because you're showing vulnerability, and this can affect the culture and the sense of psychological safety. Yeah. So I also want to share with you something from one of our clients who are using data in their onboarding process. Their name is Unique Resurs, and they use the data for internal discussion. So they have a meeting with the hiring manager and the newly hired employee. So it's a good way of getting to know each other and figuring out how to collaborate effectively. So they are encouraging their hiring manager to actually share their personality profiles with the candidate. So I'm going to show you a quote here. Yes. We often know a lot about candidates and how they will perform as employees. But what many don't think about is that it's important for the candidate, when they become an employee, to know how the manager is. As a manager, you have a fantastic opportunity if you also dare to share your own personality profile with the candidate. So this is, I think this is a great way of establishing this kind of culture that you want to have. So by sharing your profile as manager, you are showing vulnerability. You are also revealing some information, and this could hopefully make the candidate want to do the same. So this could be a good way to start developing this kind of climate. So we continue in the loop. Our leader has now worked for a couple of months, and it's time to evaluate the leadership performance. So we are in the performance stage here. So remember what I told you earlier, that leaders are very important when creating a psychologically safe workplace. It is crucial that the leaders show behavior aligned with the culture wanted and what the team needs. Because did you know that employees who have a toxic boss are 73% more likely to quit their job within just the first year? And get this, 39% of cases of burnout syndrome are directly linked to poor leadership and a toxic culture. So it's very important to find those good leaders. And leaders can help create a psychologically safe workplace by creating a feedback culture, by being open and to receiving feedback, but also showing vulnerability. So we really encourage you to work with like behavior-focused feedback. And in our new Assessio platform, we have this module where we're focusing on the feedback from the team, so the leaders know what kind of behavior they need to increase or decrease in order for the team to perform and to actually thrive. Yes. So to summarize, we want the data to continue flowing within this infinity loop, providing us with valuable insights so we can create a psychologically safe workplace where everyone can thrive. Yes, so now let's deep dive into how to measure psychological safety and what you can do in your everyday working life to create this kind of climate. And Johanna, over to you.
Yes, what a nice bridge there. So let's see. Oh, there we go. So I believe that many of you are wondering how you can know that you have psychological safety at your workplace. Well, it can actually get measured, and starting measuring is the best way to start. There are several different ways to measure psychological safety. Amy Edmondson herself, the person we were referring to with the quote in the beginning, she has created a tool that's called the Fearless Organization Scan. And you can also find a lot of questionnaires just Googling on questionnaire psychological safety. But it's also most likely possible to use your current employee survey or pulse survey tool. These employee surveys will most likely have drivers and sub-drivers where different questions will provide you answers and insight that can be connected to psychological safety. And for example, with the Eletive tool, there are several drivers and their sub-drivers that are connected to. Oops, it went too quickly. Let's see. We keep on this one, doesn't matter. There are several drivers and sub-drivers that are connected to psychological safety. There we go. So, for example, one of the drivers is called meaningfulness and participation. And this one asks questions about if new ideas and diverse opinions are welcomed in my workplace, or my opinions matters in my workplace. And a high score on these sub-drivers will indicate if the internal climate is open for sharing opinions and the people dare to speak up. The next one, relationship with managers. That we know is of great importance. And this is where there are questions like, my manager cares about my opinions, or the relationship between my manager and me is characterized by trust and confidence. So important stuff. And then the relationship with colleagues can also be a measurement, as it's not only the manager's reaction to my opinions or my ideas, it's also the colleagues, you know, sitting in a meeting and that I'm not getting someone rolling an eye or something for me, expression and opinion. That's just as well as important. And then feedback and communication is another one that can support this identifying psychological safety environment. A high score shows that feedback is welcome in the workplace and that the feedback received helps the coworker grow and develop. There we come to the next one. So measuring is an important part to understand and know the level of psychological safety within your organization. But just measuring isn't enough if it isn't connected to any insights or any action. So, and this is clearly a manager's responsibility, as Elise mentioned earlier. And we found that there are several ways that managers can get support on how to open up dialogues with a team and then aim for open climate. One example on how to use the data is how the team can continuously review the survey result that is accumulated for the team. so that the team can discuss the different drivers and sub-drivers and the reasons for them and what to do about them. It's important to set structures for how often as you as a manager present the result and how the result is discussed within the team, what decisions you should make, and how to follow up on the decided actions. And discussing the result together with the team is, for example, a great opportunity for a manager to show vulnerability and to openly express that you don't know all the answers, that the team's opinions are important to solve the issue. And especially, I repeat it again, in these times when it's a fact that we all have uncertainty about the next coming 6 months, you as a manager needs to be open about what you know and what you don't know. And the team doesn't expect you to have all the answers, but they expect you to say what you know and what you can say, of course. And by being open for opinions and feedback from the team, this will encourage team members to also take own initiatives and be part of solutions that you will most likely request for them. And besides reviewing, and let's see if we can get this working with me. And besides reviewing and discussing the survey result, another routine in the team could be to have continuous team debriefs as a structured setup for the feedback and how to raise opinions on, different projects that you've been working with. And here research shows that it's often the structure for how opinions are raised or how mistakes are evaluated that are of importance of creating a psychologically safe environment. A team debrief, as what many dev teams use as part of their retro, is something that I find useful for other teams as well. So why not as part of a team meeting once a month? And research shows that team debriefs actually makes a difference. The reason for this is the reason for better performance over time for teams that do the regular debriefs is that you constantly improve your way of working and deal with the things that keep coming up in the team. And the second thing here about employee engagement that we know is also closely connected to psychological safety is we also know that that one is higher where managers act on results. And that is also proven by research. So a manager taking action on survey result can be a game changer for engagement and psychological safety. And this goes for both high and low results. And looking at it from a manager's perspective, it can be really tough to get feedback in a survey. We all know that. But the most important part is to act. And if the manager gets lower score of any of the drivers or questions, this needs to be addressed immediately. And if you can't figure it out on your own, I'm quite sure that you have a HR team or a manager that can support you. And another way for HR that we find on how HR can support managers, that is to create a conversational framework. For example, different one-on-ones agendas that can support with good questions when opening up for a dialogue with your team member. We know that psychological safety is something that evolves over time. So that means that you as a manager, you need to put in time and effort to get to know your coworker. So having a specific template for this conversation can support your manager in what questions to ask and what to tell about yourself during your first one-on-one with a new team worker. And HR can also ensure that the feedback, by putting it into a template, that it's a two-way feedback in the agenda template. So psychological safety is also about feeling safe about expressing your thoughts. So if a manager in a one-on-one open up for being open for feedback and can handle getting negative feedback as well, it will affect the team and the level of psychological safety. And when receiving feedback, the manager should be curious, ask the coworker to exemplify, explain further, be open to learn about the coworker's view. And here's another tips too, if you HR people out there listening to this one, train your managers in both giving and receiving feedback. That would be valuable. And also, best practice within psychological safety is, of course, that expression of thoughts and opinions should be done face-to-face, but having a channel for anonymous comments and chats can be a complement. So, but remember then that you need to act as well as you do on survey results. You also need to be active and respond to these anonymous comments as well. And also, many survey tools open up for other roles than just the managers to reply on comments. And this is possible then to make connection with management team and HR as well, that can, foster a positive feedback climate within the company. I think I'm handing over to you now, Elise, for a summary.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, yes, so we have talked about how to use data in various aspects to create a psychologically safe workplace. I have talked about the importance of, I'm just going to see if my bullet points are here. Yeah. So I talked about how to create a solid foundation and how to hire a perfect match by using psychological tests, for example, to find a good match. I also talked about how to use and reuse the people data in onboarding, but also in self-awareness and in team development. And this is to get like more self-awareness and to know how to support your colleagues and your team. We also talked about how to encourage a feedback culture and the importance of that. We have talked about psychological safety and that it actually can be measured. Isn't that very cool? And also how to use a conversational framework to support managers to create an open climate and also a feedback culture. So we also want to say that psychological safety evolves over time, and it is and you just need to start with something. That is the most important thing. So what will be your first step?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think we have time. There are some Q&As coming in. I think we would just, because we're running out of time, so I'll just pick one of them here now. Is there any risk or consequence with low level of psychological within an organization? And yes, there is. And this phenomenon, so to say, can be called a dangerous silence, as no one dares to share their ideas or opinions. And I think also this can be connected to, these in recession time. So, this means that in the beginning, these teams and organizations, they will miss creative opportunities, and they will lack a culture of problem solving, and that people don't take advantage of the potential in the team. And if this continues, that people don't dare to raise their opinions, this will mean that small mistakes after each other will lead to bigger mistakes. So the reason for this is that we hold problems to ourselves, and people don't share them to each other, and that if they would have shared them with each other, that would have mean that we would learn, and we would have developed our ways of working. So it's really important in all times to have to understand the level of psychological safety within your organizations, to know that issues will be raised within the organization. Yes. All right. I think we are running out of time now. So thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure guiding you in some of the basics about psychological safety, and some on how tools and how data can support you in this.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for all the questions. Have a really nice day now.
Thank you.
Thank you.